So my brother Luke wanted some Loyalist Night Lords. What I've done is I took standard Space Marines. I've given them, as you can see, the Oni style helmet and a Night Lord shoulder pad. And my thought process for these is you've got criminals being made up into Night Lords. Well, what if some of those criminals are descendants of the Yakuza? And so they have some sense of honor and therefore retain their loyalty to the Emperor rather than going rogue and traitor and betraying everyone. So, starting with these guys with their Oni helmets, I'm going to be painting up some Night Lords. So first thing I did, as you can see, was prime them white, and I'll be working on them, getting them ready. Now for bases, I'm doing these separate from the models themselves, and I'm just doing really simple rubble bases for them, because that's what he wanted. These are built with a bit of cork and just some other random stuff. These I primed and just kind of real quick, and I'll go in, I'll add some details, I'll probably add some skulls and some other fun stuff as well, but yeah. So I primed the guy, got him on a base, and when I primed him I did an undercoat of Prussian blue, and I was hoping that would be pretty well what I wanted, but it came out a lot darker than I'd planned, so I went back over the top with Zenithal of Magic Blue, and that's got me basically to the 90% point for me to then begin painting the details on the model. So what I'm going to do, I want to do some of the details of the armor and the rest, and I'm going to use Lestra Gray to just kind of pick out a lot of those details so that I can then use some contrast paints on them. Now I'm putting the gray down because, again, I want to use contrast paint. And I also want to knock down some of the blue underneath. I don't want it to shine through when I go to do some of the metallic colors on here. So all I'm going to do, like I said, is pick out all those little details all across: shoulder pads, weapon, backpack, and then we'll come back. So here he is. I've got the gray on there, and the next thing I'm going to do is going around with some Nazdrag yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and pick out the gold details. What I like about the Nazdrag yellow is that I get a really effective non-metallic metal gold that doesn't require a lot of touching up to make it look pretty good for tabletop ready anyway. As you can see, I'm just going along and it just looks good, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish this guy up with the gold details. So I've got the gold details picked out, and now I'm just going to go back through with some Space Wolves Gray, and I'm going to pick out the standard metal details. And again with this, I really like how the Space Wolves Gray comes across looking as metal. It does a really good job of kind of looking dulled down a bit without a lot of extra effort. And when you're trying to paint 100 or so Space Marines to get them tabletop ready, it actually looks pretty good for the amount of effort involved. So here he is with the metals painted. He's got his belt buckle, halter, backpack. I still have to do the shoulder pad and the helmet, or the mask of the helmet, I should say, and we'll get into those. For his bat wings, I'm using contrast ball red. I like that it's going to really kind of pop against the dark blue armor. With this, contrast paint goes on really nice and smooth, so it's really just an element to stand between the lines. And that's where painting the gray underneath pays off really well too, because you know just where you got to put it. It's funny because painting on video is a bit of a pain because you can't quite get the angles you want and do the normal things that you like to do to paint detail work. So there we go, bat wings painted. For painting the skull, going with a really bright white and just get it on. It really makes his shoulder pad pop. For his face, I'm just using Skeleton Horde contrast paint for this bone mask. I think it'll do a really good job pulling out all the details that are on it. And then we can go back in and catch the eyes once this is dried. So here we are with his Oni mask painted on his helmet. I really like how the contrast paint kind of is thin enough to get down into all the nooks and crannies, kind of really pull out those details. At this point, he's, I don't want to say 99%, but he's a good 95% towards completion. And what I'm going to do from this point on is pick out some of the details. Red for his eyes, for the eyes of his helmet. Do a bit of a black wash to just kind of, again, pull out some of the details on him, and then we'll go to the final piece. So I'm coming in with the Nuln Oil, and I'm just getting a nice even spread all over, getting a good black wash on it. And this'll darken it up, unfortunately, even more. So then I'll come back through and do a little bit of highlights, and we'll see it when it's done. So here we are, the black wash Nuln Oil is dried, and now I'm just going to go ahead and pick out some details. So here we are, we've got his eyes painted red. Did a couple other highlights on him, just touching up here and there. Now, at this point, he's tabletop ready. He's got his colors, he looks good, but I want him to pop a bit more. And since this isn't for me, I'm going to try and do it a little bit better, because it's a gift. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the traditional lightning pattern to his armor. Now there's like 100 different ways that I've seen people do it. I tried a few different ways on some of the test models. For the number of guys I've got to paint, especially for tactical squads, what I'm doing is I'm using a titanium white, which is a really bright white, and I'm just going to go ahead and place those kind of almost stippling pattern, bringing that on. And lightning is not a straight line, so coming in, adding some curves, adding some splits, is kind of how you want to do this. And these flat shoulder pads, or these shoulder pads have nice kind of flat area. It's curved, granted, but it's a good venue to practice this, especially if you want to add it to the rest of the model. I'm only putting the lightning pattern on the blue parts of his armor, not on the trim. So, not sure if that makes it easier or harder. But yeah, I'll come back once I've got a bit more lightning crawling on this guy's armor. So here we are. I got the lightning on, and this is fairly simple. You can see I did crawling down his shoulder all the way to his hand, and then it's a little hard to see here, but starting at his chest and going all the way down one leg. And it's kind of cool with the Night Lords, when you kind of read their lore, people aren't really sure if the lightning is crawling and alive or if it's just painted on their armor. And I think kind of captured that well here. The titanium white really pops, and I've seen some other methods to do this, you know, building up in layers, but I think especially with the zenithal blue that I did already, and for the fact that I'm going to have quite a few of these guys to paint, I think this is a paint scheme that works, and in my opinion it looks pretty good. So here they are, an entire squad of Night Lords Tactical Marines, here to spread terror upon their foes. 20 of them, which is a lot of lightning to paint, but I think it really pays off well seeing them all together. And their Oni masks. Yeah, I'm stoked.